The sun hung low over Willow Creek, Virginia, casting long shadows across the quiet streets of our small town. It was where everyone knew your name, where front porches held rocking chairs and secrets whispered over sweet tea. But on that fateful spring morning, the air felt heavy with something more than the usual gossip. My husband, Captain Ethan Carter, a decorated officer in the U.S. Army, had died in a covert operation overseas. The news hit like a thunderclap, shattering the rhythm of our little community. His body, draped in a flag, arrived at our modest, clapboard house, and I, Emma Carter, stood frozen in the doorway, my 2-year-old son, Noah, clutching my skirt. I should have been weeping, crumbling under the weight of loss. Ethan was the man I'd built my life around, who'd promised me forever under the oak tree by Miller's Creek. But as the neighbors gathered, their eyes brimming with pity, I felt no tears. Instead, a cold resolve settled in my chest. Without hesitation, I walked to the county office that same afternoon. I canceled Ethan's veteran registration, erasing his name from the records with a single pen stroke. The clerk, Mrs. Thompson, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Her lips pursed as she stamped the forms. I could feel the weight of her judgment, but I didn't care. 3 days later, the town was abuzz with another event. Ethan's twin brother, Liam, was marrying his childhood sweetheart, Sophia Reynolds, in a lavish ceremony at the Old Baptist Church. The timing was scandalous. Ethan's body was barely cold, his flag still folded on my mantel. Whispers followed me like shadows as I packed a small suitcase, tucked Noah's favorite teddy bear under his arm, and claimed the substantial death benefits from Ethan's service. With those funds secured in a bank account I boarded a bus to Richmond, Noah asleep against my shoulder, and remarried before the week was out. The townsfolk called me heartless, a widow who'd turned her back on grief. How could Emma do this? They murmured at the diner, their forks pausing over plates of meatloaf. Poor Ethan, not even buried a week, and she's off with another man. But as I stepped off that bus, a thrill of satisfaction coursed through me. I caught a glimpse of Liam at the church, his face pale as he adjusted his tie, his eyes flickering with something like unease when he saw me pass by with Noah. He didn't know I'd uncovered his secret, a dark truth that would unravel everything he held dear. That evening, as I settled Noah into a new bed in Richmond, I thought of you, the ones listening to this story unfold. If my tale of betrayal and rebirth strikes a chord, hit that like button to let me know you're with me. Drop a comment, share what you'd do in my shoes. And if you want more stories of hearts broken and mended, subscribe to this channel. We're just getting started, and I promise the truth behind Ethan's death will leave you speechless. Back in Willow Creek, the church bells rang for Liam and Sophia, but my heart was elsewhere. I wasn't the grieving widow they expected. I was a woman reborn, armed with a truth that would change everything. Ethan wasn't dead, not in the way they thought. And I wasn't running from grief. I was running toward justice for me and for Noah. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: I'd never let the Carter's lies define me again. As I tucked Noah in his small hand curled around mine, I remembered the day Ethan left for his last mission. He'd kissed my forehead, his hazel eyes soft but distant, and said, "Take care of Noah, M. I'll be back before you know it." I'd believed him, clung to his promise like a lifeline. We'd met when I was 18, two kids with big dreams in a town too small to hold them. Ethan was charming, all easy smiles and stories of valor. I'd given up a scholarship to Virginia Tech to follow him through military bases, cooking dinners in cramped apartments, waiting for letters that grew shorter with each deployment. Noah's birth had been our joy, his tiny giggles filling the silences Ethan left behind. But now, standing in a new city with a new life, I saw those memories for what they were: a foundation built on sand, ready to crumble under the weight of Ethan's betrayal. The townsfolk's whispers didn't reach me in Richmond, but I knew what they'd say. They'd paint me as a villain, a woman who'd abandoned her husband's memory. Let them talk. They didn't know the half of it. Liam's uneasy glance at the church wasn't just guilt over his rushed wedding, it was fear. Fear that I knew the truth about Ethan, about the body in that coffin, about the lies that had torn my world apart. As Noah slept, I sat by the window, the city lights blurring through unshed tears. This wasn't the end of my story, it was the beginning. And I'd make sure Ethan paid for what he'd done. The hum of the train to Richmond faded as I closed my eyes, Noah's head resting on my lap. His soft breath steadied me, but my mind churned with memories not of this life, but of one before, a life where I'd lost everything. In that past existence, I'd stood over a coffin in Willow Creek, expecting to mourn Ethan, my husband, my anchor. But the body inside wasn't his. It was Liam, his identical twin, the brother who'd always lingered in Ethan's shadow. The realization hit me like a freight train, not because of grief, but because of what came next. I'd rushed to confront Ethan, my heart a tangle of relief and rage. He was alive, my husband, the father of my son, hadn't died. But as I neared Susan's house, their voices stopped me cold. Ethan said Sophia can't know Liam's gone, his tone low and urgent. She's waited years for him. It'd destroy her. Susan, my mother-in-law, hesitated. But Emma, she's got Noah, only 2 years old. How will she cope? Ethan's laugh was sharp, dismissive. Emma's strong. She'll raise Noah alone. She'd never leave me, not with our son. Their words were a knife twisting deeper with each syllable. Ethan wasn't just alive, he was planning to steal Liam's identity, to marry Sophia, Liam's fiancée, and leave me to rot in widowhood. I'd wanted to scream to expose him right then. But before I could, Ethan's eyes met mine through the window. There was no remorse, only panic. He grabbed a wooden rolling pin from the counter and struck me across the back of the head. The world went black. When I woke, I was locked in Susan's garage, the air thick with motor oil and dust. Ethan's voice carried through the door, calm and convincing. Emma's lost her mind from grief. She's not safe to be around Noah. The neighbors believed him, their pity turning to suspicion. I pounded on the door, my screams swallowed by the walls, but no one came. Through a crack in the garage door, I watched Ethan, now calling himself Liam, marry Sophia 3 days later. The church was decked in flowers, Sophia radiant in white, oblivious to the lie she was living. My Noah, barely 2, cried for me, his wails echoing across the yard. Sophia, annoyed, snapped, "Can't someone shut that kid up?" Ethan didn't hesitate. That night he slipped sleeping pills into Noah's milk to please her. My boy, my heart never woke up. They buried him in a rushed ceremony, and I, still trapped, could only weep through the cracks. The next day, in despair, I found a coil of rope in the garage. With shaking hands, I tied it to a beam and ended my pain, cursing Ethan's name as the world faded. But death wasn't the end. Like a whisper from some unseen force, warmth pulled me back. I opened my eyes to find myself in Willow Creek again, standing over Liam's coffin the day it was brought home. Susan's wails filled the air. "Oh, Liam, how could you leave us?" But I barely heard her. My hands trembled as I looked down at the body, Ethan's face. But not Ethan's. There was no scar on the wrist or mark I'd kissed 1,000 times. It was Liam, just as I'd learned in my past life. The memories flooded back, Ethan's betrayal, Noah's death, my own. But this time, I wasn't helpless. I was reborn, given a chance to rewrite our story. I clutched Noah tighter, his warmth anchoring me to this new reality. In my past life, I'd been blind, devoted to a man who saw me as a convenience. Ethan and I had built a life together, or so I thought. I remembered our first date, a picnic by the creek where he'd carved our initials into a tree. I'd given up everything for him, my dreams of teaching my independence, believing we were a team. But his heart had always belonged to Sophia, the girl he'd grown up with, the one he'd promised to protect at my expense. Knowing the truth, I felt a fire ignite within me, not just anger, but purpose. I wouldn't let Ethan's lies destroy us again. As the mourners gathered their faces, a blur of sympathy and judgment, I played the part of the grieving widow. Tears streamed down my face, but they were for the life I'd lost, not for Ethan. Inside, I was calculating. Ethan thought I'd mourn him forever, raising Noah in his shadow while he lived as Liam with Sophia. He was wrong. I'd protect my son no matter the cost. And as I looked at Liam's body, I vowed Ethan would pay for every lie, every moment of pain he'd caused. This time, I'd be the one to walk away and take everything he thought was his. The air in Willow Creek's funeral parlor was thick with the scent of lilies and sorrow. Mourners shuffled past the open coffin, their whispers a low hum like bees in a hive. I stood at the edge of the room, Noah clinging to my hand, his tiny fingers warm against my cold skin. My eyes were fixed on the body before me, Ethan's face, or so it seemed. But I knew better. The memories of my past life pulsed through me, sharp and unyielding, as if carved into my bones. I wasn't just Emma Carter, grieving widow. I was Emma reborn, pulled back from death's edge by a force I couldn't name, given a chance to rewrite a story that had ended in tragedy. In that other life, as I'd slipped into darkness with a rope around my neck, a strange warmth had enveloped me like sunlight breaking through a storm. A whisper, not quite a voice, promised me a second chance. I'd woken here in this moment, standing over a coffin that held not my husband Ethan, but his twin brother Liam. My heart pounded as I leaned closer, searching for the truth. Ethan had a scar on his wrist, a jagged line from a childhood accident when he'd fallen from a tree. I'd traced it with my fingers 1,000 nights, a map of our shared life. But this body dressed in a crisp military uniform had no mark. The skin was smooth, unscarred. It was Liam, just as I'd discovered before, dead, while Ethan lived plotting to steal his brother's life. Susan, my mother-in-law, wailed beside the coffin, her cries theatrical, pulling eyes to her grief. "Oh, Liam, my boy, how could you leave us?" she sobbed, clutching a handkerchief. The neighbors nodded, their faces etched with pity, but I saw through her performance. In my past life, she'd conspired with Ethan, dismissing my pain with a wave of her hand. "Emma's strong," she'd said, as if my strength was an excuse to abandon me. Now her tears felt like a mockery, a mask to hide her role in the lie that had destroyed me. Noah tugged at my skirt, his blue eyes wide. "Mommy, why's everyone sad?" I knelt beside him, forcing a smile. "They're saying goodbye to someone's sweetheart." But inside, waves of emotion crashed: relief that Ethan was alive, rage at his betrayal, fear that I might fail Noah again. In my past life, I'd been too trusting, too devoted. I'd thrown myself onto Liam's body, sobbing until I noticed the missing scar. That discovery had led me to Susan's house, where I overheard Ethan's plan to become Liam and marry Sophia, his childhood love. The memory of that betrayal burned, but so did the warmth of my rebirth. It was a gift, a chance to protect Noah, to escape the Carter family's web of lies. I straightened, wiping a tear that wasn't entirely fake. The mourners saw a grieving widow, but I was a woman at war. Ethan thought I'd stay in Willow Creek, raising Noah alone, mourning a man who'd never loved me. He was wrong. I'd seen what happened when I trusted him, my son's cries silenced by sleeping pills, my own life ended in despair. This time I'd be smarter, stronger. I'd play their game until I could break free. As Susan's wails grew louder, I saw Ethan across the room, his face a perfect mask of sorrow, but his eyes betrayed him, darting, nervous, avoiding mine. He knew I was here, and he feared what I might know. I squeezed Noah's hand, grounding myself in his warmth. The rebirth had clarified me, but it hadn't erased the pain. Every memory of my past life, Ethan's cold dismissal, Noah's lifeless body, felt like a fresh wound. Yet with that pain came purpose. I wouldn't let Ethan's lies define us again. I'd protect my son no matter what it took. As the mourners began to disperse, I made a silent vow: Ethan would pay for his betrayal, and I'd build a new life for Noah, far from Willow Creek's shadows. As I led Noah into the humid Virginia air, the funeral parlor faded into the background. Willow Creek's main street stretched before us, lined with dogwood trees and memories. Years ago, I could still see Ethan and me walking hand in hand past the diner, laughing over milkshakes. He'd been a charmer then, all easy smiles and big dreams, his hazel eyes bright with promises. I was 18, fresh out of high school, with a scholarship to Virginia Tech and plans to become a teacher. But Ethan's stories of military glory, of a life bigger than our small town, drew me in. I gave it all up, college independence, to follow him through army bases from Fort Bragg to Fort Hood, cooking dinners in tiny apartments, waiting for his letters during deployments. Noah's birth had been our anchor. I'd held him in a hospital room in Georgia, Ethan beside me, his hand trembling as he touched our son's tiny fingers. "He's perfect, Em," he'd whispered, and I'd believed we were a family unbreakable. But now, standing on the street with Noah's hand in mine, I saw those memories differently. Ethan's promises had been hollow, his love a shadow. His heart had always belonged to Sophia Reynolds, the girl he'd grown up with, the one he'd carved hearts for on the same oak tree where he'd later proposed to me. I'd been a convenience, a dutiful wife to fill the gaps while he pined for her. Back at our house, I tucked Noah into bed, his teddy bear clutched tight. "Mommy, is Daddy in heaven?" he asked, his voice small. I froze, the question slicing through me. I'd lied to him in my past life, clinging to Ethan's memory. Now I knew the truth. Ethan was alive, plotting to live as Liam, to marry Sophia and leave us behind. "Daddy's gone, sweetheart," I said softly, brushing his hair. "But we're gonna be okay." Noah nodded, drifting to sleep, but my heart ached. I'd given Ethan everything, believing we were building a life together. How had I missed the signs? The way his letters grew shorter, he'd linger at Sophia's parents' house when we visited Willow Creek. I walked to the living room where Ethan's folded flag sat on the mantel. My fingers traced the stars, and for a moment I let myself feel the weight of my love for him. We'd danced barefoot at our wedding in a barn under string lights, promising forever. I'd sewn patches onto his uniforms, cooked his favorite chili, waited up nights, praying he'd come home safe. But that love had blinded me. In my past life, when I realized Liam was in the coffin, I'd been overwhelmed with relief. Ethan was alive. I'd run to Susan's house, desperate to find him, only to overhear his plan. Sophia had waited years for Liam, he'd told Susan. I'll take his place. Emma's strong, she'll raise Noah alone. Those words had shattered me. Ethan didn't just betray me, he erased me as if my pain, my love, my life meant nothing. Now reborn, I saw him clearly, a man who'd used my devotion to free himself for Sophia. The rage was there, but so was the grief, a quiet ache for the life I'd thought we had. I opened a drawer, pulling out a stack of Ethan's old letters. My hands shook as I fed them to the fireplace, watching the flames devour his empty promises. Each spark felt like a step toward freedom, but the hurt lingered, reminding me how deeply I'd loved a man who'd never truly loved me back. I glanced at Noah's bedroom door, his soft snores a lifeline. In my past life, Ethan's betrayal had cost me everything. My son, my hope, my life. This time, I wouldn't let him win. I'd play the grieving widow, let Ethan think I was broken while I planned our escape. Tomorrow I'd face him at the funeral, his eyes searching mine for signs of suspicion. He'd find none. I'd learned from my past life, trust no one, protect Noah, and strike when the time was right. As the last letter burned to ash, I whispered to the empty room, "This is for you, Noah. We're getting out." The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains of our Willow Creek home, casting delicate shadows across the living room where Ethan's folded flag sat on the mantel, a silent accusation. I stood in the kitchen stirring oatmeal for Noah, my hands steady despite the storm inside me. The funeral for Liam, though, everyone believed it was Ethan, had ended yesterday, and the town was still buzzing with whispers. Neighbors had crowded the funeral parlor, their eyes heavy with pity for the young widow left with a toddler. Poor Emma, they'd murmured, their voices dripping with sympathy. How's she gonna manage with little Noah? I'd let them see what they expected, a grieving woman, eyes red, shoulders slumped. But inside, I was a coiled spring, every move calculated, every tear a lie. In my past life, I'd been too trusting, running to confront Ethan the moment I realized he was alive, only to be silenced and locked away. This time I'd play the part they expected until I could escape. Ethan thought I'd stay in Willow Creek, raising Noah in his shadow, mourning a man who'd betrayed us. He was wrong. My rebirth had given me clarity, a second chance to protect my son, and I wouldn't waste it. Last night I'd fed Ethan's letters to the fireplace, watching his empty promises burn. I was planning our exit, each step deliberate like a chess game where Noah's future was the prize. The front door creaked open as I set Noah's breakfast on the table. Ethan stepped inside, his face a mask of solemnity, but his eyes darted to mine, searching for cracks in my facade. He was dressed as Liam now, his military haircut and broad shoulders identical to my husband's, but I knew the truth, no scar on his wrist, no warmth in his gaze. "Emma," he said, his voice soft, "how are you holding up?" The question was a performance meant for the neighbors lingering outside, their ears pricked for gossip. I forced a tremble into my voice, dabbing my eyes with a dish towel. "It's hard, Liam," I said, "but I've got Noah to think about." He nodded, satisfied, and moved to the living room where he began sorting papers for his wedding to Sophia. The town was abuzz with the news, Liam Carter marrying his childhood sweetheart, Sophia Reynolds, just days after his brother's death. "It's what Ethan wanted," he'd told the mourners yesterday, his voice thick with false emotion. He asked me to take care of Sophia, to give her the life he couldn't. The lie was seamless, and the townsfolk ate it up, their sympathy shifting from me to the tragic love story of Liam and Sophia. Only I knew Ethan was no martyr, he was a coward stealing his brother's identity to claim the woman he'd always loved. I watched him from the kitchen, my heart cold. In my past life, his betrayal had cost me everything, my freedom, my son, my life. I remembered the garage where he'd locked me, the sound of Noah's cries as Sophia complained the sleeping pills Ethan slipped into his milk to silence him. The memory clawed at me, but I buried it, focusing on the plan. I'd already contacted Ryan Mitchell, my childhood friend in Richmond, who'd promised to help me start over. I'd secured Ethan's death benefits, transferring most to a private account, leaving just enough for Susan to think I was compliant. Tonight, I'd burn the last of Ethan's belongings, his old dog tags, his faded army cap, erasing him from our lives. Susan bustled in, her face flushed from organizing the wedding. "Emma, you'll help with the reception, won't you?" She asked, her tone more command than question. "It's going to be a big day for Liam and Sophia." I nodded, keeping my eyes downcast, the picture of obedience. "Of course, Susan," I said softly. She patted my arm, oblivious to the fire in my chest. She'd dismissed me in my past life, telling Ethan I'd manage alone. Now she thought I'd stay a dutiful widow serving her new daughter-in-law. Let her believe it. When they realized I was gone, Noah and I would be far from Willow Creek, building a life where Ethan's lies couldn't touch us. As Ethan left to meet Sophia, I knelt beside Noah, who was stacking blocks on the floor. "We're going on an adventure soon, sweetheart," I whispered. His blue eyes lit up, unaware of the weight of my words. I'd protect him no matter what. Ethan's wedding was tomorrow, and I'd play my part until I could slip away. The town might call me heartless, but I was a mother first, and I'd burn this whole life to the ground to keep Noah safe. The day of Ethan's wedding to Sophia dawned bright and cruel, the kind of Virginia morning where the air was thick with promise and betrayal. Willow Creek's Baptist church was decked in white roses, the steeple gleaming under the sun. I stood outside Noah's small hand in mine, his teddy bear tucked under his arm. The townsfolk bustled around us, their chatter a mix of excitement and unease. So soon after Ethan's death, they whispered, glancing my way. I wore a plain black dress, my face a mask of quiet grief, but inside my heart was a furnace of rage and resolve. Today was the day I'd break free, but first I had to endure the charade. Ethan, posing as Liam, stood at the church steps, his suit crisp, his smile practiced. Sophia clung to his arm, her wedding gown shimmering, her laughter bright but brittle. She didn't know the man she was marrying wasn't her fiancé Liam, but my husband Ethan, who'd faked his death to claim her. In my past life, I'd watched this scene through the cracks of a garage door, locked away helpless as Ethan betrayed us. I'd heard Noah's cries, silenced by Sophia's annoyance and Ethan's cruelty. That memory burned, but it also steeled me. I wouldn't let history repeat itself. Noah tugged at my hand, his voice small. "Mommy, is that Daddy?" He pointed at Ethan, his blue eyes searching, hopeful. My throat tightened. In my past life, Noah's confusion had broken me. He'd called for Ethan, not understanding why his father pushed him away. Now seeing Ethan's familiar face, Noah's hope was a knife to my heart. Before I could answer, Ethan turned, his eyes narrowing as Noah reached for him. "Daddy, hold me," Noah said, toddling forward. Ethan's face hardened and he stepped back, brushing Noah off. "I'm not your daddy, kid," he said coldly. "I'm your Uncle Liam." Sophia's smile faltered, her eyes flicking to me with irritation. "Emma, can't you keep him quiet?" she snapped. "This is our day." The words echoed my past life, when her complaints had led to Noah's death. I scooped Noah up, his small body trembling as he buried his face in my shoulder. "He's not my daddy," he whimpered, his voice muffled. "He doesn't love me, does he?" I held him tight, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "No, sweetheart," I whispered. "That's not your daddy. But Mommy's here, and I'll find you a daddy who loves you, okay?" The promise was a vow I'd made in my reborn life to shield Noah from Ethan's cruelty. I remembered our early days when Ethan would toss Noah in the air, his laughter filling our tiny apartment. I'd believed he loved us, but those moments were a lie, overshadowed by his obsession with Sophia. In my past life, Sophia's annoyance at Noah's cries had pushed Ethan to slip sleeping pills into his milk, silencing him forever. Seeing her dismiss my son again, I felt rage and clarity. I wouldn't let her or Ethan touch him. I carried Noah into the church where Susan was directing guests. She glanced at us, her eyes softening briefly for Noah before hardening. "Emma, help in the kitchen after the ceremony," she said. "We'll need extra hands." I nodded, keeping my gaze down, playing the obedient widow. But my mind was on the bus tickets in my pocket, the bank account with Ethan's death benefits, the call I'd made to Ryan Mitchell last night. My childhood friend Ryan was furious when I told him about Ethan's betrayal. "I'll find you someone good, Emma," he'd promised, his voice thick with emotion. I trusted him, not just because we'd grown up together, but because he'd always seen me not as a convenience, but as a person. As the organ played and Ethan led Sophia down the aisle, I stood at the back, Noah in my arms. The townsfolk whispered their pity, now tinged with judgment. "Poor Emma, but she's so strong," one said. I let them believe it. In my past life, I'd screamed for help only to be ignored. This time I'd be silent until the moment was right. I'd packed our bags, burned Ethan's memories, and secured our future. Tonight, while Ethan and Sophia danced at their reception, Noah and I would slip away to Richmond, leaving Willow Creek and its lies behind. I kissed Noah's forehead, his tears drying against my cheek. "We're almost free, baby," I whispered. Ethan might think he'd won, but he soon learned the cost of betraying a mother's love. The organ's notes echoed in my ears as I slipped away from the Baptist church, Noah's hand warm in mine. Willow Creek's streets were alive with the buzz of Ethan and Sophia's wedding, the townsfolk's whispers trailing us like ghosts. Poor Emma so strong they'd said their pity a weight I no longer carried. Inside, I was a storm of resolve fueled by the memories of my past life. Ethan's betrayal, Noah's lifeless body, my own despair. In that life, I'd been locked in a garage, helpless as Ethan stole his brother Liam's identity to marry Sophia. Now reborn, I was rewriting our story, and today was the day we'd break free. I led Noah to our small house, the clapboard walls a reminder of the life I was leaving behind. Ethan thought I'd stay mourning him forever, raising Noah in his shadow. He was wrong. My rebirth had given me a second chance, a clarity that cut through the lies. I'd burned Ethan's letters and dog tags, erasing his hold on us. The death benefits from his supposed passing were safely in a private account, and our bags were packed, hidden under Noah's bed. But I needed more than money to start over someone I could trust. As Noah played with his blocks, I stepped onto the porch, the evening air thick with the scent of honeysuckle. I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed Ryan Mitchell, my childhood friend who'd moved to Richmond years ago. Ryan and I had grown up together in Willow Creek, racing bikes down dirt roads, sharing secrets under the stars. He'd always been there, sketching my smile in his notebooks, his quiet steadiness contrasting Ethan's flashy charm. When I left for college, he stayed behind working odd jobs until he left for the city to chase a dream in business. I hadn't spoken to him in years, not since Ethan and I married, but his number was still in my phone, a lifeline I hadn't known I'd need. Emma Ryan's voice was warm and surprised when he answered. "Is everything okay?" I took a deep breath, the weight of my past life pressing against my chest. "Ryan, I need your help," I said, my voice low. "Ethan's gone. Not dead, but gone. He's pretending to be Liam marrying Sophia. I'm leaving Willow Creek with Noah and need to start over. Can you introduce me to someone reliable? Someone who'd be good for us?" The line went silent, and for a moment I feared I'd lost him. Then I heard a sharp thud, like he'd punched a wall. He did what Ryan's voice was thick with anger, which comes from caring too much. "Emma, that bastard doesn't deserve you. I'll find someone good, I promise. Get here safe." His words cracked something open in me, a flicker of hope amid the rage and grief. Ryan didn't ask for details he didn't need to. He'd always seen me not as Ethan's wife or Noah's mother, but as Emma, the girl who'd once dreamed of teaching of a life beyond Willow Creek. In my past life, I'd been too broken to reach out, too consumed by Ethan's lies. Now I saw Ryan's loyalty for what it was, a chance at redemption. "Thank you," I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. "We'll be in Richmond tomorrow." He hesitated, then said, "I'll be waiting, Emma. You're not alone." The call ended, and I stood there, the stars above, brighter than I remembered, as if guiding us toward a new beginning. Inside, Noah looked up from his blocks, his blue eyes curious. "Mommy, where's our adventure?" I knelt beside him, my heart swelling to a big city sweetheart, where we'll be happy. He grinned, unaware of the stakes, and I held him close. The memory of his death in my past life, a shadow I'd never let touch him again. Ethan and Sophia were dancing at their reception now, oblivious to my plans. Susan would expect me in the kitchen serving their guests, but I'd be gone before dawn. Noah's hand in mine, our future waiting in Richmond. Ryan's voice echoed in my mind, a promise of safety, and for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I felt like I could breathe. The morning of Ethan and Sophia's wedding was a spectacle Willow Creek transformed by their lavish plans. The Baptist church glowed with white roses, and a rented marquee tent stood in the town square draped in fairy lights for the reception. I moved through the chaos, Noah at my side, my black dress contrasting with the celebration. The townsfolk bustled, their whispers quieter now, focused on the grandeur of Liam Carter's wedding to Sophia Reynolds. I played my role, carrying trays of lemonade to the kitchen, my face a mask of quiet grief. But inside, I was counting the hours until our escape, my heart steady with purpose. Ethan, posing as Liam, was the center of attention, his smile wide as he greeted guests. Sophia clung to his arm, her gown sparkling, her laughter a little too loud, as if convincing herself this was her fairy tale. She didn't know the man she loved was Ethan, not Liam, her childhood sweetheart who lay dead in a coffin. In my past life, I'd watched this scene from a locked garage, my screams ignored as Ethan betrayed us. Now, reborn, I was steps away from freedom. Our bags packed, the bus tickets to Richmond tucked in my pocket. I'd secured Ethan's death benefits, leaving just enough for Susan to think I'd comply with her demands. Susan cornered me in the kitchen, her eyes sharp despite her frail frame. "Emma, you got the compensation money, right?" she asked, her voice low. "It's a hefty sum. Liam's wedding cost a fortune, a new car for Sophia and appliances for their house. You'll chip in, won't you, for the family?" Her words were a demand, not a question, echoing my past life when she'd dismissed my pain. I forced a nod, dabbing my eyes for effect. "Of course, Susan," I said softly, handing her a small envelope with a fraction of the funds. "I'll give you the rest after the wedding." She took it, her fingers lingering on the envelope, satisfied. She didn't know I'd transferred the bulk to a private account untouchable by the Carters. Ethan's spending was the talk of the town. He'd bought Sophia a sleek convertible, a shiny refrigerator, even a color TV, luxuries rare in Willow Creek. The neighbors marveled, their envy tinged with curiosity. "Liam's spoiling her," one said, glancing at me. I kept my head down, stirring a pot of gravy, but I saw Sophia's smug smile as she showed off her new car. In my past life, Ethan had used the compensation money to fund this extravagance, assuming I'd stay to serve their new life. Now I let him believe I was broken compliant while I planned our exit. Sophia's eyes met mine, her expression a mix of pity and triumph. She thought she'd won, that I was a relic of Ethan's past. She didn't know I held the truth and the money that would unravel their dream. Noah tugged at my skirt, his voice small. "Mommy, why's everyone so happy?" I knelt, brushing his hair. "They're celebrating sweetheart, but we have our own adventure soon." His smile was my anchor, a reminder of why I was doing this. In my past life, Sophia's complaints about Noah's cries had led to his death, Ethan's cruelty sealing his fate. Now I'd protect him at all costs. I'd called Ryan Mitchell last night, his anger at Ethan's betrayal a lifeline. Ryan's promise to help us start over in Richmond was my light in the dark, his sketches of my smile a memory of a time before Ethan's lies. As the reception began, Ethan approached, his eyes scanning me for defiance. "Emma, you're holding up okay?" he asked, his tone false. I nodded, my voice soft. "Just keeping busy, Liam." He relaxed, turning to Sophia, who was admiring her new car. "Anything for you," he said, his voice dripping with devotion. I turned away, my heart cold. He thought he'd secured his future, but I'd be gone by morning, Noah safe in my arms. Susan's demands. Sophia's smugness, Ethan's lies, they'd all collapse when they realized the money was gone, and so were we. I carried a tray to the tent, my steps light with the promise of freedom, knowing this was the last time I'd play their game. The stars glittered above Willow Creek as I slipped out of the house, Noah asleep in my arms, his teddy bear pressed against his cheek. The town square glowed with the fading lights of Ethan and Sophia's wedding reception, the marquee tent alive with laughter and music. Inside, Ethan, posing as his twin brother Liam, danced with Sophia, oblivious that I was unraveling his carefully spun lies. In my past life, I'd watched this scene from a locked garage, my screams drowned out my son's cries, silenced forever by Ethan's cruelty. Now reborn, I was rewriting our story. Tonight, Noah and I would leave Willow Creek for good, the death benefits from Ethan's supposed passing safely in my private account, our bags packed with only what mattered. I'd played my part all day, serving lemonade and smiling through gritted teeth as Susan, my mother-in-law, barked orders in the kitchen. The townsfolk's whispers had shifted from pity to judgment. "Emma's so strong," one said, "but remarrying so soon, it's not right." I let them talk, their words meaningless against the fire in my chest. I'd secured the bulk of Ethan's compensation, handing Susan enough to keep her complacent. The bus tickets to Richmond were tucked in my pocket, and Ryan Mitchell, my childhood friend, was waiting for us. His promise of a new start had been a lifeline, his anger at Ethan's betrayal mirroring my own. As I reached the edge of town, the bus station's neon sign flickered in the distance. I glanced back at the square where Ethan's laughter carried on the breeze. He thought I'd stay mourning a husband who'd never loved me, raising Noah in his shadow while he built a life with Sophia. In my past life, his plan had worked. I'd been trapped, broken, until despair took everything. This time I was free. I boarded the bus, Noah stirring slightly as I settled him on my lap. The driver nodded, his eyes kind but uninterested, and the engine rumbled to life. As Willow Creek faded behind us, I felt a weight lift, the chains of Ethan's lies falling away. By morning, Ethan would return to the house with Sophia, expecting to find me in the kitchen, ready to serve their new life. Instead, he'd see my letter scrawled hastily, but deliberately, "I'm remarrying. Noah and I are gone. Don't look for us." I'd left no trace, burning Ethan's old dog tags and letters, erasing his hold on us. The townsfolk would gossip, their voices sharp with scandal. They'd say Ethan's body's barely cold and Emma's run off with another man, let them judge. They didn't know the truth that Ethan was alive, hiding behind Liam's name, betraying his son for Sophia's love. The bus rolled through the Virginia night, Noah's soft breath steadying me. In my past life, I'd lost him to Ethan's cruelty, his small body still from sleeping pills, meant to silence his cries. Now I held him closer, vowing he'd never know that pain. Ryan's voice echoed in my mind, his promise to find us someone reliable. I trusted him because we'd shared childhood summers racing bikes and dreaming under the stars, and he'd seen me when Ethan hadn't. As the city lights of Richmond appeared on the horizon, I whispered to Noah, "We're almost there, sweetheart." This was our escape, our chance at a life untainted by Ethan's lies. The reception ended in Willow Creek, and Ethan led Sophia home, his smile faltering when he found my letter. His vision blurred as he read it, the words a blow he hadn't expected. "She's remarrying," he muttered, his voice shaking. Sophia frowned, her joy dimming. "What's wrong, Liam?" she asked, oblivious to his true identity. The townsfolk outside murmured, their voices rising in criticism. 3 days after Ethan's death, and she takes Noah, one said. Disgraceful, another added. Ethan's panic grew, his plan unraveling. He'd thought I'd stay a dutiful widow, but I was gone taking his son and the money he'd counted on. As he rushed to the bus station, the truth hit him. He'd underestimated me, and now he'd lost everything he thought was his. Richmond's skyline sparkled as the bus pulled into the station, the dawn painting the city in hues of gold and pink. I stepped off Noah in my arms, his eyes blinking awake at the new world around us. My heart raced with a mix of fear and hope. In my past life, I'd never made it this far, trapped by Ethan's lies, locked in a garage, my son taken from me by his cruelty. Now reborn, I was rewriting our story, and Richmond was our clean slate. Ryan Mitchell, my childhood friend, had promised to meet us, his voice on the phone a beacon through the darkness of Ethan's betrayal. I scanned the platform, clutching Noah's hand, until a familiar figure emerged from the crowd. Ryan hadn't changed much since our Willow Creek days, tall, with kind brown eyes, and a smile that felt like home. But there was a new weight to him, a steadiness earned through years of struggle. He'd left town after high school working construction while building a small tech business under Virginia's open market reforms. His success was hard-won, born from a childhood of hand-me-downs and long nights studying by flashlight. "Emma," he said, his voice soft as he reached us. "You made it." Before I could respond, he scooped Noah into his arms effortlessly and warmly. "Hey, little man," he said, ruffling Noah's hair. Noah giggled, clinging to him, and my heart caught. In my past life, Noah had never known this kind of warmth, only Ethan's cold rejection. Ryan led us to his car, a modest sedan parked outside his 3-story townhouse in Richmond's historic district. The house was elegant but unpretentious, with ivy climbing the brick and a porch swing creaking gently. Inside, he showed us a room prepared for Noah, complete with a small bed and a stuffed dinosaur. Noah's eyes lit up, and he ran to explore, leaving Ryan and me alone. "Emma," he said, his gaze steady, "I meant what I said on the phone. You don't have to do this alone." His words cracked open a vulnerability I'd buried. In my past life, I'd been too broken to reach out, too consumed by Ethan's lies. Now I saw Ryan's loyalty for what it was, a chance at redemption. He led me to another room, its walls lined with sketches. My breath caught as I recognized my face, smiling, thoughtful, young, drawn in pencil and charcoal. Ryan said I started these when we were kids, his voice low. "I was going to give them to you to tell you how I felt. But when I returned from my first job in the city, you were engaged to Ethan. You seemed happy, so I let it go." His eyes met mine, raw with emotion. "I never stopped caring, Emma. When you called, it killed me to hear what he did. If you're ready to move on, give me a chance for Noah and you." I stood there stunned, the sketches a testament to a love I'd never seen. In Willow Creek, I'd been blinded by Ethan's charm, giving up my dreams for his. I'd thought our life, our picnics, dances, Noah's birth was enough. But Ethan's heart had always been with Sophia, and his betrayal had cost me everything in my past life. Now Ryan offered something real, something Ethan never had. I took a deep breath, my voice trembling. "I'm ready, Ryan," I said, nodding. He grinned, lifting me in a joyful spin, and I felt light for the first time in 2 lifetimes. We married that week in a quiet ceremony at a Richmond courthouse, Noah holding my hand, calling Ryan Daddy with an ease that warmed my soul. The reception was at a cozy restaurant, the tables adorned with wildflowers, not the ostentatious display of Ethan's wedding. Noah laughed, chasing Ryan around, and I watched my heart settling into peace. In my past life, I'd lost Noah to Ethan's cruelty, his small body still from sleeping pills. Now he was alive, loved, and I was whole. Ryan's sketches hung in our new home, a reminder that someone had always seen me. As I lifted my glass, toasting our new beginning, I knew we'd left Ethan's lies behind, building a future where Noah and I could thrive. The dust of Willow Creek settled as Ethan stumbled through the town square, the fairy lights from his wedding to Sophia, now dim and tangled. The reception had ended in chaos when he found my letter I'm remarrying. Noah and I are gone. Don't look for us. In my past life, I'd been trapped locked in a garage watching Ethan posing as his twin brother Liam build a life with Sophia, while my son Noah died at his hands. Now reborn, I was in Richmond with Noah, safe with Ryan Mitchell, my childhood friend turned husband. Ethan's world was unraveling his lies, catching up like a storm he couldn't outrun. Back in Willow Creek, Ethan rushed to the bus station, his face pale, eyes wild. The townsfolk's whispers followed him sharp with scorn. Emma left with Noah just 3 days after Ethan's death, one said. Shameless, another muttered. Ethan ignored them, his mind fixed on me, on the son he'd abandoned for Sophia. He'd thought I'd stay a grieving widow, raising Noah in his shadow, while he lived as Liam, free to love the woman he'd always wanted. My escape with the death benefits he'd counted on was a blow he hadn't seen coming. At home, Sophia waited, her wedding gown crumpled, her joy replaced by unease. Liam, what's wrong? She asked, still believing he was her childhood sweetheart. Ethan's hands shook as he faced her, the weight of his deception too heavy to carry. I'm not Liam, he said, his voice breaking. I'm Ethan. Liam's dead. I took his place to marry you. Sophia's face froze, her eyes wide with shock. What she whispered, stumbling back. You're Ethan. My Liam's gone. The truth hit her like a wave. Her dream of marrying Liam was shattered. She'd grown up with Liam, shared secrets under Willow Creek's oak trees, and planned a life together. Now she saw Ethan for what he was, a liar who'd used her love to escape his own. Sophia's shock turned to fury. You lied to me, she screamed, her voice echoing through the house. You let me think you were Liam. Let me love a ghost. Ethan tried to reach for her, but she slapped his hand away. I trusted you and you stole my life. Her words cut deeper than she knew, echoing my own pain from my past life, when Ethan's betrayal cost me Noah. Sophia's anger wasn't just for herself. She mourned Liam, the man she'd truly loved, now lost forever. Ethan had planned to protect her, to give her the life she'd dreamed of, but his lie had destroyed them both. The town's creditors arrived, their voices loud with demands. Ethan's lavish spending, Sophia's convertible, the new appliances, the color TV had been funded on credit, assuming I'd hand over the death benefits. Now with me gone, the bills piled up. Pay up, Carter, one shouted, banging on the door. Ethan's mother, Susan, tried to intervene, but the stress was too much. She clutched her chest, collapsing in a faint, her health failing under the weight of her son's mistakes. Sophia, still reeling, faced the creditors alone, her wedding joy replaced by humiliation. He'll pay, she stammered, but her eyes darted to Ethan now, a stranger to her. Their fights grew vicious in the following days. Sophia's love turned to resentment. Her taunts were relentless. You're nothing compared to Liam, she spat one night, her voice dripping with contempt. Emma's happy now with Noah and some rich guy in Richmond. You're stuck with me and you're worthless. Ethan's eyes darkened, the memory of my quiet strength haunting him. In my past life, he'd silenced Noah's cries to please Sophia, locking me away to keep his secret. Now her words broke something in him. If it weren't for you, he roared, I'd still have Emma and Noah. Sophia laughed, cruel and sharp. You chose me, Ethan. You faked your death for me. This is your fault. In a blind rage, Ethan lunged, his hands wrapping around her throat. Shut up, he shouted, his voice raw. Sophia clawed at him, her eyes wide with fear, but his grip tightened. By the time he stopped, her body was limp, her face pale. Ethan sank to the floor, the truth of what he'd done crashing over him. He'd killed Sophia, the woman he'd sacrificed everything for. The police came quickly, the town's whispers now a roar of condemnation. As they cuffed him, Ethan's mind replayed our life, my laughter, Noah's giggles, realizing what he'd lost too late. Richmond's morning light streamed through the windows of our townhouse, painting the kitchen in soft gold. Noah laughed as Ryan chased him around the table, pretending to be a dinosaur, his roars sending Noah into giggles. I watched from the counter, a mug of coffee warm in my hands, my heart full for the first time in 2 lifetimes. In my past life, I'd lost everything to Ethan's betrayal, locked in a garage, watching him marry Sophia while Noah died from his cruelty. Now reborn, I'd escaped Willow Creek with Noah building a new life with Ryan Mitchell, the man who'd loved me since we were kids. This was our redemption, a future free from Ethan's lies. Ryan caught Noah, tossing him gently onto his shoulders. "Gotcha, little man," he said, his smile bright. Noah squealed, calling him Daddy, with an ease that still startled me. Ryan had welcomed us into his home, his sketches of my face drawn in our childhood lining the walls, a testament to a love Ethan never offered. Ryan's life hadn't been easy. He'd grown up poor, working construction before building a tech business in Richmond. His success was quiet, earned through grit, and his kindness to Noah was genuine, unlike Ethan's cold indifference. In Willow Creek, I'd given up my dreams for Ethan, believing his promises of forever. Now, with Ryan, I was finding myself again dreaming of teaching of a life where Noah could thrive. News from Willow Creek trickled in through Ryan's contacts. Ethan's world had collapsed. After I'd fled with Noah and the death benefits his debts had mounted, his lavish wedding to Sophia funded by promises he couldn't keep. When Sophia learned he was Ethan, not Liam, her love turned to rage, their fights ending in tragedy. Ethan, in a fit of anger, had strangled her, his arrest swift and final. He'd begged to see me and Noah, desperate to reclaim us, but I refused. I sent a message through a friend. "You're just an uncle, Ethan. Your choices won't touch Noah's future." The words were cold, deliberate, severing the last tie to the man who'd betrayed us. Ethan's trial was the talk of Willow Creek. He ranted in court, insisting he was Ethan, not Liam, but no one listened. His military file erased when I canceled his registration left him trapped as Liam, his true identity buried. Susan, his mother, suffered a stroke from the shock and died, leaving no one to vouch for him. The townsfolk, once admiring, now called him shameless, their whispers a fitting punishment for a man who'd lived a lie. Ethan's life ended in a cell, his name forever wrong on his tombstone, a final twist of justice for the pain he'd caused. In Richmond, Noah adjusted quickly, his laughter filling our home. Children sensed truth, and Noah knew Ryan's love was real, unlike Ethan's rejection. I enrolled in night classes, studying to become a teacher, reclaiming the dream I'd abandoned for Ethan. Ryan supported me, his belief in us unwavering. One evening, as we sat on the porch swing, Noah asleep inside, Ryan took my hand. "You're home now, Emma," he said, his eyes soft. I nodded, tears falling not from pain, but from peace. In my past life, I died in despair, regretting my trust in Ethan. Now I was alive, loved, and free. I thought of Ethan's end as I watched Noah play in the yard, chasing fireflies under Richmond's starry sky. We were birds, soaring high, while he was a fish, trapped in the depths of his choices. Willow Creek was a memory, its shadows gone. Noah and I had found our path, and with Ryan by our side, we'd live well, our hearts healed by love and redemption.